Hello and welcome to Sunday Career Success. I am Bill, the company's expert, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is, I don't know what number show this is. This is like the, fifth, sixth, seventh show, something like that. And I'm going to try and do something a little bit different today. Today we're going to be talking about job search psychology, which is kind of a weird title because it's mainly the mentality of job search. So if you have ever had a bad job interview experience, or you've ever had a bad job search experience, hopefully this will strike a chord with you. It's interesting because, a lot of people don't like the whole job search experience, and quite frankly, I don't blame them. It's a little bit of a crazy process, and everybody's emotions really get tied up in this, in and of itself, and because the stakes are so high. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, there is a chat in this live stream. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you will see a chat right next to the video feed. So get in the chat. This is, after all, a Q&A session about employment, career-related stuff. So get in the chat, say who you are, say where you're from, and ask questions. That's the whole point of this. Okay, so let's just dive in here. First of all, if you are looking for a job right now, you are doing the job search song and dance, and you're feeling frustrated and you're feeling disrespected, and it's just stressful as hell, just remember this. It's not your fault, okay? This is perfectly normal. You are not alone. You are not abnormal. Most people experience this, and it has nothing to do with any kind of perceived rejection of you and your abilities. It's not your fault. We're going to get into this. Now, just so you know, I don't really have too much of an actual formal structure, and I'm still getting my chops down doing live streaming. So I apologize if this is kind of hokey and it jumps all over the place. And also, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything like that. I'm a management consultant, and I also do some teaching on the side at a university, ironically, in HR, and that is what's prompting this chat. So, yeah, that's the first thing I want to say, is that this is a very common thing. A lot of people find this extremely stressful, and a lot of people tend to take it very personally. If you apply for a job and you don't get it, or they don't call you back, people tend to take that in a very personal way. And they immediately experience depression. They experience, as I said, feelings of inadequacy. They think, what's wrong with me? And that is something we're going to get into. Now, maybe a place to start. I had kind of written out some notes about what I could cover here, but maybe a place to start that might be the best way is I'm going to shoot back 30 years, and I'm going to describe my first encounter with this. I got a degree at university, and I came out and I had to get a job. And I remember responding to job ads, and you would respond to a job ad where they would give you a list of qualifications, and they would say, the candidate is expected to have these 12 things. And you would have those 12 things, or at least you could make a very solid argument that you had them. And you would draw attention to this. And you would try and make it as clear as possible in your application. You would outline these on your resume. You would talk about them in a cover letter, if you did a cover letter, and you would send it in. And lo and behold, you would either not get a response, or you would get a response that said, I'm sorry, we have decided to go with other candidates. And it's not like you were applying late. You were applying, on the first day that the job had come out. And so the question was, what am I doing wrong? What is wrong with my application? I don't understand. And then you would I would feel a little bit of anger, to be honest. I would feel very frustrated about this. And I would take it as some kind of rejection of me, because, what else would you think? You have the qualifications, you are you, and then on top of it, you were responsible for presenting yourself. And somewhere in there, you obviously made some kind of mistake because they apparently decided that you weren't good enough. So that was a feeling, and that became a very familiar feeling over the years when applying for jobs, especially jobs that you felt very strongly about. You really wanted that job. You were excited for it. You really put a lot of effort into the application, and you wouldn't get it. And the more you wanted the job, the more the sting was when you found out that you didn't. And on top of that, it wasn't just the fact that you were rejected. My memories back then, and I know a lot of people today are in the same boat, you also have an issue with the way you're rejected. There's a lot of good people in HR, but I got to tell you, there's a lot of bad people doing recruitment and selection. I'm not criticizing them as a group. I'm criticizing a lot of the individuals within it that are not particularly good at what they do, especially in the area of people skills, having people skills. I have worked with people that can tell you that you didn't get the job in such a way that you are happy. And I'm not making this up. I'm dead serious about this. They are that good at it. Unfortunately, for every one of those, it seems like there's about 20 people, especially at lower levels, that just don't understand how to interact with people. They don't understand protocol. They don't understand how to communicate effectively. And there are a hell of a lot of those people out there. And unfortunately, a lot of them seem to be working in recruitment and selection. And I've always wondered why that is. And it's of particular interest to me because I teach recruitment and selection. And I know that we have a long way to go. So the biggest issue that I remember feeling, and I know that a lot of other people feel this, was just the, for want of a better word, the insensitivity of telling you, of being rejected, of telling you, I'm sorry, you didn't get the job. And I've always felt the best way to do this was to not say anything, to have an application that says, apply for the job. We hope that if you feel you're qualified for this, that you apply. And if we select you, we will contact you. If not, try again next time, right? So you don't actually get that rejection letter. I know there's different opinions on this, but I think that spares people's feelings, especially when they get a rejection letter that says, you didn't get the job. And sometimes it's very blunt. And I know why they do it. They do it for essentially legal reasons. To say, well, you didn't communicate clearly. Well, you want me to communicate clearly? Well, here you go. You didn't get it. Goodbye. And getting those is not fun. And a lot of people get those. So if you have gotten that, as I said, you're not alone, and it's not your fault. Now let's talk about what's actually going on here. Okay, seeing it from the other side. First of all, I had made a list of different ways to get a job, and we're going to run over those later. But basically, what's happening here is that if you're applying for a formal job position, especially if it's connected to the internet in any way, what we're seeing these days is that applying for a job on the internet is unfortunately a terrible way to go about a job search. And it's because applying for a job on the internet is so easy that so many people are doing it. And it is not uncommon to get literally hundreds of applicants for each position you post. So if you're getting 300 applicants in a few days for a position that you post, think about this for a second. I mean, what are the statistical odds of getting a job when you're going up against 300 other people? They're not good. Okay? I mean, if you were equally qualified as everyone else, and it shone through equally, and they were completely impartial in the way that they chose people, you would have 1/3% of getting that job. That's what you're up against. So now what this says is that, okay, if there's 300 applicants for a job, statistically speaking, you would have to apply for 300 jobs before you're going to get anything, all things being equal. So that's what you're up against. That's not very good odds. Now, if you're in the situation I described where you apply for a job and you believe you have all the qualifications that they have stated in the job application, or at least you make a very good argument that you have, and you feel you don't even get considered. They don't call you in for an interview. They reject you outright, which can feel very unfair. If that's your situation, well, the reality that I just explained, if you're competing with 300 other people, that helps to frame what's actually going on here. This is one of the reasons why I say it's not your fault and you are not alone, because this is what we see, especially for younger people in their, generally speaking, in their early 20s. Applying for a job on the internet is the default and most obvious way of getting a job for them. So this is what they're doing. And then they're coming up against this reaction where they're just getting rejected and rejected and rejected and rejected. And after a while, that has a psychological effect on you. It tends to make you think, what am I doing wrong? Right? That's a normal human reaction to feel in that situation. And on top of that, I remember 25, 30 years ago, the reality that that most people learn the hard way is that you don't get feedback. They won't give you feedback. It's kind of a part of the culture of recruitment and selection to not give feedback. And there's some pretty clear reasons for this, but it's not obvious to candidates. So if you say, why did I get rejected? Could you please tell me what the issue was? 99% of the time, you won't get any information out of that. No one will tell you. So that's also something that contributes to people thinking, oh my God, what is wrong with me? I must be not qualified when I think I am. And the fact that you don't know what to work on, you don't know what to change, that also contributes to this being a horrible experience. It contributes to feelings of helplessness and confusion and not knowing how to fix it. So the reason that they don't give feedback, if you're wondering, there's generally speaking here, and you're going to find everything I say is generally speaking, because there are no right or wrong answers in HR. HR is kind of just a very fuzzy area of topic. I was a CEO of a company. I've worked in all the departments, and of all departments, HR is the one with let's put it this way, the one with the most potential to improve. Okay, it's one of the least accurate areas. It's even less accurate than sales and marketing, which is saying something in terms of making predictions and their success rates and all this kind of stuff. So we have the good news is we have the most potential for improvement in HR, put it that way. But the reason why they won't give feedback is because it's almost like something that you can't win. First of all, the conversation goes on forever. Then, people are not objective about themselves. And if you say, well, this doesn't really look good, a lot of times people won't accept that. Okay, just statistically, people, won't be, oh, okay, I see that now. Thank you very much. They'll be very defensive and they'll challenge you and all this kind of stuff. Also, no good really comes of it. And you're sort of revealing your hand. It's like in poker where you show, if you showed everybody else your cards, that would be bad, right? So, a lot of criteria for selection sometimes is intentionally kept confidential because they're looking for a certain type of person and they want to see how people behave. Now, if you told everyone, I'm looking for this type of person, what would happen, obviously, is all your candidates would say, oh yeah, I'm totally that type of person, right? So for that reason, you don't want to disclose this, or if you do disclose it, you run into issues. So that's the reality. It all culminates in the fact that they are not going to give you feedback on why you were rejected. This can be very frustrating when you are realizing this. So that was kind of the first problem. The first problem is you apply for a job and you don't get a call back. Okay. Now, if you get to the point where you get an interview, then we really get into it. There are people in this world that can do an amazing job interview, absolutely amazing. And what that means is that they really get to the heart of, who you are as a candidate. They really assess you, but they do it in a way that you could get on board with. I know that sounds weird to say, but suffice it to say that there are extremely good, there are people out there that have extremely good job interview skills. However, in my experience as a candidate many years ago and as sort of somebody supervising the HR function, that is not typical. That is not typical. I've seen that with executive recruiters. And for people who are not executive recruiters and, perhaps they know HR, but they don't know the area in which they are recruiting. Like, for example, an HR person who is hiring engineers or hiring accountants or hiring lawyers when they themselves are not an engineer, an accountant, or a lawyer, that can be not the best situation, not the best selection that you would make. It's incredible. I hear stories from students. I teach on the side. I have my own experiences. Working in companies, but most recently I get feedback from students about their interviewing experiences, and it's pretty obvious that there's still a lot of people that really don't know about manners, protocol, or interviewing skills. And so I feel sorry for a lot of people that have to encounter this. And I hear stories of interviewers being just downright rude, and I've experienced that myself. I did a couple of videos over on my main channel called "My Worst Job Experiences Ever" or "Job Interview Experiences Ever," and I go through some of those, and it's just incredible. It's incredible from a business perspective that people would try and recruit talent by behaving like that, because all it does is it drives the good people away. The good people don't have to put up with that kind of crap. And, if you behave like that, you're mean to people, you're rude, you're impolite, to candidates. Even if you select somebody, if they're really good, they'd probably be turned off by that process. And then the people you get are people that would put up with that. And I don't know if that's a good thing. Either people that are desperate for a job or people that are so grateful to be there because maybe they, it's above their capabilities or something. I don't know. I don't know what kind of people you would get by doing that. I've always made it a point in smaller business to just treat people properly, and it's a real skill. And if there are any managers out there or any business owners, I've done this, but I've seen it with my own eyes. Many years ago, it made quite an impression on me how some smaller businesses would retain top talent by being nice to them. It's as simple as that. These people could leave and get a higher paying job across the street, figuratively, or at their main competitor, but they don't, because if they stay with your company, they are at least treated like a human being. And that starts with the interview process. And you can always tell a good company by its interview process. If you have a really rude, moronic interviewer screening you for a role in that company, that's a red flag. You might not want to work there. Okay. Now, what everyone needs to know who is undergoing a job search, okay, and is going through an interview process, is that a job search is a numbers game. It's as simple as that. Okay. It is statistical probability, and it relies on serendipity. It relies on you just happening to communicate to somebody that here I am, I can do this type of work, I can solve this type of problem, I have these skills, and if you are looking for someone who can solve that problem and that has those skills, give me a call. Okay? So you say this at coincidentally the same time that someone in your network
is coincidentally happening to look for someone who has those skills and can solve that particular problem. It is statistical probability. And if you get up and say, hi, I have these skills and I can solve this problem, and you're only communicating this to 5 people, and those 5 people just don't happen to be in a position where they're hiring somebody or they need someone that can do those skills, don't get discouraged, because it has nothing to do with your abilities. It's just to do with statistical probability. It just so happened that the people you were reaching weren't looking for those particular skills right at that moment. Okay? So that should address feelings of inadequacy, feelings of rejection, feelings of lack of self-worth. Now, I know it's easier said than done, but hopefully knowing that reality helps you realize that, okay, you shouldn't feel bad about your own abilities. You shouldn't feel like you're unemployable, which is what a lot of people feel in these situations. Instead, knowing the reality of the situation, what can we do? What can we do to fix this? Well, first start, knowing that situation, the first thing you can do is you can go to a wider network. You can broadcast yourself wider to more people, okay? Because imagine if you broadcasted this message to 1 million employers or 1 million hiring managers, 1 million business owners. Here I am. I've got these skills. I can solve these problems. I'm looking for a new position. If you need someone who can solve that problem or that has these skills, give me a call. If you broadcasted that to 1 million hiring managers, the odds are pretty good that several of them would say, hey, yeah, I'm actually looking for someone that can do that. Give me, here's my number. Give me a call. Let's talk. Okay, so number 1, you need to go to a wider audience. And the good news is that even though I was it felt like in a way I was putting down the internet earlier by talking about how applying for a job on the internet is bad. The good news is that through the power of the internet, we can reach a very wide audience relatively easily, thanks to social networking. Facebook, LinkedIn, all these different platforms that we have. My personal favorite is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the one I know the most about. I know there are a ton of people that are authorities on the other ones. That's not me, unfortunately. So I could talk to you about LinkedIn, but when it comes to Facebook, when it comes to like doing business networking over Facebook, that's not my strength. I'm just going to admit that now. But we can reach a lot of people on social networking. Okay, I think LinkedIn is a fantastic tool. I've said that many, many times. And it can be the key to connecting with people that have a high likelihood of wanting to hire someone like you. Okay, thanks to between Google and LinkedIn, you can find all the employers in your immediate area who are in your industry. Okay, you can find out the name of the company, all the information on the company, where they are. Here's their website. You can see what jobs they're posting. But more than that, when you combine that with LinkedIn and you research that company in LinkedIn, I'm talking research that takes 10 seconds, you can find the individuals within the company and what their positions are and what their roles are. So you can connect with hiring managers, you can connect with owners, you can connect with the executives. And this is the key to being able to get a job when answering job postings or doing standard channels like temp jobs and things like that are not working. This is the way to go. Now, it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. The more exposure you have, the more likelihood that you will be hired. It's as simple as that. Okay, so the key is to get the largest exposure possible. Now, if you're an extroverted type person, this comes naturally to you. You don't need a lecture from me as to how to use social networking. This is, I'm sure you feel at home there. For introverted type people that are not, they're not big people. This is going to be, it seems more daunting, but it's not. It's actually very simple. Now, I got a couple of questions in like the space of 5 seconds. Let's see. AT,
What's the best way or least desperate way to broadcast to your LinkedIn contacts that you're looking for a job? Excellent question. There's two main ways of doing this. Now, depending on the size of your network on LinkedIn, let's say you're connected to 100 people. Let's say you're connected to 2,000 people. Either way, you have two choices. One is to do a broadcast where essentially you do a post. You do a post that says kind of the script that I was saying earlier. I'm here. I got these skills. I solve these problems. If you're looking for someone with any of this, give me a call or contact me at, this way. Okay. So that's one way. That's the quickest way. Okay. It's not the most effective. I've found that the most effective way is to DM all your contacts. So direct message, you send a message that just goes to that one person, which essentially says the same script. Okay. But the difference is it's maybe a bit more personal. Okay. You don't necessarily have to write a completely different message each time. You can use a template, but that's basically two ways to do it. One is a broadcast and one is a direct message, but essentially it's communicating the same thing. And don't get wrapped up in it. Don't think okay, I need a response from everybody. You're not going to get a response from most people. It's just as simple as that. Okay. If they happen to be looking for a candidate to fill a position that fits what you have, they'll probably be in touch with you. But if they don't, they probably won't respond. And that's cool. That's fine. Okay. So hopefully that answers your question. Travis. Hey, Travis. Travis says, under regular circumstances, I would have a job with just a call. My industry is practically dead due to the virus. I haven't filled out an application in nearly 10 years. Yeah, so you're gonna be in a little bit of a culture shock here. And if you haven't filled in an application for 10 years, the way of doing it has morphed a little bit. I mean, the fundamentals are all exactly the same, but some of the tools are different. And some of the behaviors for hiring managers and recruiters are a little bit different. But it's nothing to worry about. Okay. Now, a great principle here that might be relevant to your situation is fish where the fish are. Okay, I know that sounds like a cliche, and it is a cliche, but it's true. If your industry's dead, if none of these companies are hiring, don't, as much as possible, don't beat your head against the wall trying to get blood from a stone. If they're not hiring, they're not hiring. You need to look elsewhere. Okay, now I don't know what industry you're in, but usually, okay, not always, but usually, a lot of skills are transportable. Okay. A lot of skills that you have in one situation apply equally to another. Okay. Maybe you know this already. If you do, I apologize. If you don't, that's the reality. Now, if you break down what you can do, think about what you do. You have people skills, you have communication skills, maybe you have project skills, maybe you have skills dealing with customers, partners, vendors, that kind of thing. Carnival sales. Oh, so sales like SAILS, sales in the sense of like a ship has sails. Okay. These some technical skills, a lot of other soft skills, they are transportable. If you are a competent person, you can communicate well, you are punctual, you are hardworking, you can meet deadlines, you can accomplish tasks, you can think for yourself. These apply in practically every industry, right? So if you can package your skills and present them either on a resume or an application or a cover letter, and dyslexia, and basically offer yourself up as a candidate in another industry, okay? We fish where the fish are. We look where people are hiring, okay? And it is a perfectly normal thing to have a target in mind. Say, I do this kind of work. I work at this company, and that's where I'm going to be working. And that's perfectly normal, and it's expected of people. However, if that industry is not hiring, then you need to look elsewhere. And so the question is, how do you present yourself so that you can work elsewhere?
And the key there is being able to get recruiters and hiring managers to understand how the work that you've done and the skills you have apply to whatever they are looking for. Okay, I know that's a very general answer. I apologize. It's hard to really get into the details. But that's the basic approach, okay? Start by looking at where people are hiring and then tailor what you're doing to cater to that. Don't just have that thing, I'm in this industry and I only do that industry, okay? It's perfectly understandable, but we got to break out of that. Yeah, it's a numbers game, and fish where the fish are. Now, let's see, what have we got here? Interpersonal skills of HR. You know, this is interesting. One would be forgiven for thinking that if you're going to find a person that has great interpersonal skills or great communication skills, they would be in human resources. Human resources deals with people, right? That's what they do. So you would be forgiven for thinking that people who decide to go into human resources have great communication skills and they like dealing with people. Why would you go into a business dealing with people when you yourself don't like dealing with people? Unfortunately, I've found that is the reality. You get a lot of people that go into HR that don't have any particular affinity for communicating, for interacting, for collaborating, and they're not particularly fond of people. And my question always was, what the hell are you doing in this business? You know, I would expect that someone who wants to make a career in dealing with other people, that they would be good at it. And I think the first thing that a lot of people realize is that usually when you're dealing with somebody with HR, the odds are, unfortunately, is that you're not dealing with somebody with great communication skills, someone who puts you at ease, that makes you feel good, that's a master of communication. This is the reality. And I mean, you do get those people, and some of them are absolute masters of this. And I kind of bow to their skill, and I envy their skill in, you know, for example, delivering bad news and having it go well, or getting someone to open up and let their guard down and feel comfortable dealing with you, things like this. Or persuading somebody, you know, who's just not into an idea, but because you are so well at influencing and persuading them, you get them to turn around and do the thing that they would have you do. You know, you do get people like that, but the vast majority of people, in my experience, and from stories I hear going on right now, is that that is not the case, unfortunately. So that leads to another problem. The other problem might be that you are qualified for a job, and maybe you would be a great candidate. Okay, you have everything you need. You are hardworking, you're dedicated, you're reliable, you're punctual, you're great to work with, but you're also independent. You can work independently. You have all these great traits. But the problem is, you are trying to get a job, and that is a different problem than, are you good for the job? For example, that situation I mentioned earlier, where you are an accountant or an engineer or a lawyer, and you want to get a job as an accountant or an engineer or a lawyer, but to get that job, you have to go through a recruiter who is not an accountant or an engineer or a lawyer, doesn't understand anything about those disciplines, doesn't understand anything about the experiences and how they relate to making you good at your job. They don't understand any of the personality traits you would need to be in that job. And you have to somehow convince this person that you are a good candidate when they know nothing about being an accountant or an engineer or a lawyer. It's a different problem. And I remember discovering this the hard way 30 years ago, and I know a lot of 20-somethings who are discovering this right now, that they're realizing these are two different problems. Being qualified for a job is one problem, but convincing a recruiter that they should hire me, that's a completely separate problem. And if you are frustrated in your job search, if you are having issues with interviews, they're not going well. If you haven't realized this is probably a first step. Okay. And officially, and I know this because I currently teach this. I have taught this. It's officially, it's not supposed to be two separate problems, but in reality it is. And I've done videos about this, explaining some of the technicalities of this problem. You need to learn how recruiters think if you're dealing with a recruiter. If you're dealing with a hiring manager, you need to learn how hiring managers think. Okay? If you've never done this before, I would recommend just getting on Google and learning about recruiters, learning about hiring managers, what they think, what training they've had. For example, recruiters, they look for qualifications. Their job as a recruiter is to supply candidates who meet the stated qualifications. Now, if you are a candidate, you don't meet the qualifications, or you meet 19 out of 20, a lot of times, that's it. You're rejected. Because all they care about is, do you meet the qualifications? They don't care about anything beyond that. They don't care about, you could have all kinds of things that would strongly indicate that you would be a good candidate. You could have won a Nobel Prize. But if winning a Nobel Prize wasn't one of the stated requirements, and one of the stated requirements was having 5 years experience in that role, and you only have 4 years experience, but you've got a Nobel Prize, a recruiter, generally speaking, will reject you because their job is to supply qualified candidates. Usually that's how they work, especially independent recruitment companies. They work that way. They are paid to supply a short list of candidates that all meet the stated requirements, and then the hiring manager will refine that short list from there. Okay? So, knowing this and knowing that you're dealing with a recruiter can give you some insight into what perhaps you should say and what perhaps you shouldn't say, or what to send them, or how to present it, what to write in a cover letter, what to highlight on your resume. Okay, these are things that are informed by the fact you're dealing with a recruiter and you understand what recruiters look for. Hiring managers are different. Hiring managers are not recruiters. Excuse me. They're people that basically, they're the ones recruiting. So if they are posting a position and you get hired for it, the hiring manager will be your boss. Okay, so that's who a hiring manager is. They care about different things. They're the ones that have to work with you. So they're going to care much more about whether they like you, whether you guys click as people. You can communicate well. If you understand each other, like if you have a similar background or you have similar opinions, similar styles, they're going to warm to that aspect of it. And they're going to tend to overlook maybe some of the qualifications if you guys get along together and you click and it looks like you could work well together. So qualifications are not as important for them. And if you have a Nobel Prize or something that, we all know would probably help you be a better employee, they will consider things like that. Okay, that will actually carry some weight with them. So knowing who you're talking to is going to help tremendously. Now, someone says here, my buddy AT says, Travis, this is Travis. Travis, customer service reps, phone operators is supposedly a trending job right now. I'm sure you have many transferable skills. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I would agree with that. Not the most glamorous thing ever, but we get good jobs by working with people. You get your foot in the door, you get into an organization. The first job you have there might not be the most high-paying, glamorous thing ever, but it gets you in the door, and because you're in the door, it gets you first dibs on any job they have internally over any outside client. So that's good. This is the principle of networking, by the way. So let's talk about what we can do about this. Okay, we talked about some of the principles here. Let's talk about ways of getting a job. Number one is networking. Okay, hopefully you know this. If you don't know this, this may be a big revelation to you. What's the most obvious way to get a job? Well, it's apply for internet job postings. That's the most obvious way. It's the default way for a lot of people, especially young people. It doesn't work, though. It's a terrible way to get a job, applying for jobs on the internet. 75%, however, of all jobs are filled through networking. And this is true. And I'm not just quoting a statistic off the internet. I mean, I've lived this my entire career. Networking is the way to get a job. I would highly encourage anybody looking for a job right now to look into networking first. Forget about applying for jobs on the internet. Forget about applying for 100 jobs in a day on the internet. Unfortunately, that is not very promising. The competition's too high, and you don't have a personal connection. So let's talk about networking. We already talked about, how to use social networking platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook to connect with people. You can connect to a lot of people, okay, through these platforms. Now the question is, what do you say? Well, you have your little pitch. Okay, I'm here. I can do this. If you're looking for this, hire me. Okay, so what is networking for some people? I'll just do this very briefly in case you're kind of not really down with this. If you work at a job, okay, you've had some kind of job in your past, okay, you will have what they used to call a Rolodex, like a personal contact list of people that you interact with that know you. Okay, these could start out as your coworkers, and in some jobs, depending on the job you have, you will be interacting with people outside your company or outside your organization, and they will know you too, right? And they know you for having certain skills. Okay, so for example, let's say you worked in the warehouse. You were the warehouse manager for the evening shift at the company. Okay, so you maybe supervise 2 employees, something like that, just some job. Now, you will have a list of people that you interact with inside the company and outside the company, and they all know you as the warehouse person, right? Oh, it's Jane or it's Jim calling from the warehouse. They're the warehouse person. They know parts. They know inventory. Okay, so that's who you are. So to those people in your network, okay, you are an authority on running a warehouse, on inventory, on supply chain, okay, and because they know you and they deal with you on perhaps a daily basis or weekly basis, they will probably be able to personally vouch for you. They'll say, look, I know this person. They are a warehouse person. They do know their stuff. Yeah, I've dealt with them. They're reasonably good to deal with. They're reliable. I know they've held down their job for at least 2 or 3 years. So, they're decent employee material. And they could even say other things like, oh, I like dealing with them, or, they're always a pleasure to deal with, or, they're always on the ball when it comes to finding little details and things like this. They know their stuff. So here's a bunch of people that that they know you, they can vouch for you personally and verify that you have skills that you say you have and have responsibilities you say you have. Okay? Now, let's pretend that one of those people works in an organization who happens to be looking to fill a position in their warehouse or in their supply chain in some capacity. Well, if you're announcing to them, hey, I'm right here, I'm looking for something, if anyone knows of anything, then, you will probably be a better candidate than anyone that they could get through posting the job, because someone in their organization can vouch for you. They've dealt with you. They know you. And so, that's the way to get in. If they have that personal connection with you, your resume will ride to the top of the pile when they consider who they're going to get to fill that position, right? Now, here's the key. I mean, that job that I just described, that's in the hidden job market. It's the hidden job market. Nobody announced to you or to anyone else, oh yeah, hey, I've got a job here. I'm looking to fill a position. I'm looking for this type of person. They never said that. Okay. The job was hidden. It existed in that a hiring manager was looking to hire someone, but they didn't post the job. Okay. Now, 75% or so, it's actually more than 75%. It's like over 80%, but most jobs exist in that form, okay, on the hidden job market. So how do you get a job like that? Well, the answer is networking. You communicate, hey, I'm looking, I'm here. And if that message just happens to reach somebody who is hiring, or just happens to reach someone who knows someone who's hiring, then you jump to the top of the resume pile. Now, the other advantage of this also is, and this is a well-known thing, is that what's your competition for that job? How many people are you competing against? Well, it certainly isn't 300 like we talked about before. You might be competing with 2 people, maybe 3, if that. So statistically, your odds go up of getting the job. All things being equal, you can get that. So that's basically how networking works. So it's a matter of just broadcasting your message, and through statistical probability, the more people you reach, the higher your odds, and the more relevant people you reach, the higher your odds. Sooner or later, something will come along. Now, if you're not broadcasting this, your chances go down, obviously. If you're broadcasting a lot, your chances go up. If you're looking in the right places, you're fishing where the fish are, that cliche everybody loves, your chances go up, right? If you have 150 candidates chasing 3 jobs, your odds go down. Okay, so that's networking. I mean, you could do entire courses in just networking, and I've taught a course on networking. So yeah, you could really get into it. There's all kinds of other things you can do. You can do informational interviews. I did a live stream on that. You could apply for a job in person on the hidden network. That's where you show up at the company. And that freaks people out, but it's actually very simple to do. You show up, you look professional, you give the receptionist your resume, and you say, could you please, is the manager here in charge of this department? Are they available? And they'll probably say no. So you say, okay, no problem. I'm just going to leave my resume and my card, if you have a business card. And could you see that they get it, please? Thank you very much. And then you leave. And then you follow up with the manager by phone and say, hi, yeah, I'm just following up just to see, my name is this. I'm just to see if you got my resume that I left at the front desk. I'm just seeing. If ever you're looking for someone that has these skills and can solve this problem, give me a call. Thank you for your time. You keep doing this. Number 1, you elevate yourself above the crowd. People are impressed with your professionalism and your ability to just be a go-getter and, your enthusiasm. Most people don't do this. So when someone shows up and says, hey, I'd love to work here, and they look good, they sound good, they give you a resume, if that person is looking, if there's a job on the hidden job market, you jump right to the top of the pile. So someone is saying, Travis, my buddy Travis saying, so shoot for a big fish in a small pond of applications. Yes, that's the key. And the way to do that is networking. I mean, this is not coming from me. This is a proven thing. So if this is some new information for you, don't take my word for it. Go online, go to Google, start researching this stuff, start learning a bit about it. It's a real thing. If you are doing the internet job application thing and it's not going anywhere, do the networking thing. Okay, if your immediate circle of contacts does not yield anything, expand your network. Okay, that's super easy to do these days, especially with social networking. You can do this from your home, and you can contact a lot of people. I've done a lot of videos and live streams about that. Okay, another avenue that some people can choose to do is temp jobs. Now, before you completely, dismiss this topic, just hear me out. Temp jobs, I'm not suggesting you work a temp job. What I'm suggesting is that a temp job It's like volunteering. It's a great way into an organization. Okay, just into an organization, right? You get your foot in the door, and now you're on the inside. Now you have access to the people. And if you are good to work with, if you are, a good employee, they hired you for 2 days to do a job, and you got there, people like you, you did your job, no issues, you're a pleasure to be around, you are obviously a very capable person. Well, now that you're on the inside, you can be a shoo-in for any job that they are looking for internally, right? So it's not that you want the temp job, it's that it's a means to an end, okay? So that's something. Volunteering, I know these are challenging times. It may not be possible, but volunteering is another sort of backdoor to getting a job. You call up a company and say, look, I'm not looking for a job, but I'm looking to volunteer. I'd like to get some experience in this industry or in this company or in this role. And I'm wondering if you have anything, just a volunteer thing. I'd love to be a part of it. No pressure. Let me know if something comes up. And you keep putting that message out. Depending on who you talk to. Now, if you talk to a recruiter, okay, if you're talking to the head of HR at a little company, that's probably not going to result in too much. But if you're talking to a hiring manager, an owner, a CEO, and I'm talking about a CEO of a company of 20 people, okay, I've been that type of person. You call up, you say, look, I'm excited about doing this type of work. I'd love to get experience in this role. If ever you're looking, for someone that comes in and can do some work for free in exchange for experience, maybe a letter of recommendation, something like that, give me a call because I'm very interested. Thank you for your time. If you say something like that, a lot of people will take you up on that. That's a really good offer. They come in, work for free, in exchange, not really for free, no money, but in exchange for experience. Now, obviously, this is not a job prospect in itself, but it's a way to get in. And once you're on the inside, if it's in an industry that perhaps is growing or at least is not declining, there's probably going to be opportunities. Good things will happen. Okay, so there's kind of ways into the back door. Now, anything in person is going to rely on soft skills. Okay? Interpersonal skills. If you have good interpersonal skills, that means you're likable. Pretty much interpersonal skills, that's what they amount to, that you're likable. And if you're likable, then you're friendly, right? The secret to doing a good interview is just to be likable, And I've done videos on that. It's a very common thing. There's a lot of sources on how to do that. Especially if you're dealing with hiring managers. This is kind of the thing. So bottom line is that if you're having issues with your job search right now, if you had bad job search experiences, maybe your industry isn't hiring, maybe you've dealt with a bunch of bad HR people, maybe you've just been doing the job application thing. It's just, there are alternatives, okay? You are not alone. You are not abnormal. There's nothing wrong with your skill sets. It's just a matter of getting your message in front of a different audience, okay? And I highly recommend that you work harder, work smarter, not harder. I almost said the opposite. Work smarter, not harder. Learn about some of these other channels to get a job, and especially networking. Networking is a huge topic. Learn about it. It may be the answer. Even if you're an introvert, even if, the thought of going and striking up a conversation with a stranger is horrifying to you, okay? It is for a lot of people. Don't get discouraged. You don't have to do that, okay? That's not what this is about. It's strange how social networking has brought human connection to introverts. People would just sit there with their phone. That's the joke, right? Kids with their phones, right? Doing the typing with your thumb thing. I can do about 10 words a minute. They can do about 1 million words a minute with their thumbs. And they stop talking to each other. That's always been the big joke. Well, that's what we're talking about. Networking can be that. So if you're an introvert, don't shy away from it. Anyway, I hope this was somewhat useful. I found it very scattered. I don't usually do the kind of touchy-feely kind of thing. I'm more of like a facts type person, but this is a very real issue. Don't get discouraged. There is a way out. It always looks like it's going nowhere until magically it all works out. Okay, that's how it always appears. So don't get too discouraged. But if the approach that you're using is not leading anywhere quickly, change your approach. And hopefully I've given you some ideas where you could look into as alternatives to what you're doing. Don't feel too bad if you encounter bad HR people. There are an abundance of those insensitive, rude people that don't know how to communicate, don't know how to assess people. We haven't even gotten into that. Don't know how to assess people. That's a whole other can of worms, but that's probably something for another day. I want to thank everybody who's participated. I want to thank AT. I want to thank Travis. I want to thank everyone who's listening. You guys are awesome. I do this show every Sunday at 2 p.m. Central Time in North America. And this is just a sort of random free forum for questions I can help you with. Check out my regular channel called The Company's Expert. That's where I do kind of a bit more professional, thought out videos. And subscribe, like, share, hit the bell, blah, 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 blah. I have a Facebook group on Facebook called Get Hired, The Company's Expert. So if you would like to interact with like-minded people in the similar situation or in different situations from yourself, consider joining the group. There's a link on the YouTube page that I have. Just before I go, so Travis says, I have past experience in a charitable organization, was a charter member at 16, right on, and held 2 elected offices. Would you say that carries some weight? Yes, I do. That demonstrates a lot of personal qualities that are good. First of all, to get elected, presumably you have to be some kind of a people person. You have to be a collaborator. You have to be able to relate to people, interact positively with them. And the fact that it shows initiative that you've done this, and you've done it at an early age, at 16. So that's a very good thing. And number one, I mean, that should definitely be a talking point. Number two, you can use that to answer direct questions that are probing to see if you have these traits. So yes, definitely, that does carry some weight. Now, when I read this, just my personal opinion is that you seem like a people person. If you're doing this kind of activity, that tends to suggest that, you would have a significant network, or you certainly have the capability of having a significant network. So you want to tap that network to yield some hidden job opportunities. So read up on that. Check out my videos if they would be helpful. Thank you for the intelligent questions. We got some great questions today. Thanks a lot, guys. I wish you nothing but the best, and take care. Thank you very much.